Thank you. Hi, everybody. Can you see me down here? Hello. Hi. Hello. Yeah, when Kay was up here, I was like, will I even be able to peek over the top of that thing? I'm Laura, I'm an alcoholic. Hi. Look at, look, even if you weren't good looking, I mean, obviously it's a ploy to be like, you're a really good looking crowd. Like, I might say it, but you are an oddly good looking group of alcoholics. So congratulations on that. It's pretty cool. And a lot of, I love the rock and roll alcoholics. It's an exciting group for a Friday. Even that we're just not drinking on a Friday. Did I say I was an alcoholic? I'm Laura, I'm an alcoholic. I'm 17 years sober. Thank you. I probably have a story to tell. It's so hard to remember. Anytime I'm asked to speak, I'm like, yeah, totally. And then I just go blank. I'm like, did I drink? I don't know. I hope it comes back to me, because I just blank out like a goldfish, and it's kind of good in a way. Like, I just like to call it getting real spiritual now, but I think I'm just forgetful. But either way, sometimes it's in the framing. But yeah, my sobriety date is 7/11/07. And here's, in case you have to leave early, the gist of it, I could not stop drinking. I couldn't stop, and I had to come here. The end. I wanted to stop, tried, couldn't. Hello. Now we're friends. And I was actually deep into sobriety. One of the things I'm fascinated with is realizing more about myself drinking as I was sober. Like, probably we've all had that experience. Like about a month into being sober, at some point, like, there's so many epiphanies. I was like, that wasn't excitement, adventure, and romance. I was like, I was just being gross. Like, I was like, that's so weird that I called that adventure and romance. There is a totally different word for what I was doing. And I find so much, I'm from Texas, is how I started, and I had so many different words for alcoholism and what alcoholism is. And one of them was Texan. I was like, when I was drinking, I was like, I'm just Texan, we're hardy. We do things big. We don't mess. You've heard of us. Don't mess with us. We're drunk. And that's one of the reasons not to mess with us. It's too much to put on the sign. But I'm adopted, and like, I have this really great family, but I'm adopted, and when I felt weird and out of place, I called it being adopted. Like, now I call that alcoholism, all that, like, you don't understand me, I'm not even supposed to be here, and there's somewhere else I belong, and all these things that I should not have said out loud, but of course I did. I just feeling different, like ultimately different, like different from anything else that's ever been created. Like, I feel that level of different. I think of it as like the way I am on the deep inside is like 100 good friends could throw me a surprise party, and jump, surprise, we love you, and I could kind of, on some level, outside of without treatment for this, could still kind of want to be dead. That's what I treat. That's what I treat in AA. Is just, and I remember even when I was little, all my mom wanted to do was have kids. She just wanted to be a mom and have kids. She couldn't have them, so she adopted two of us. She was great. She was obsessed with us. My mom didn't even want to be a teacher. She was a teacher to have our same schedule. What a psychopath. And she was like, I love my kids. And I was like, whoa, enough. But I remember as a child, like a 5-year-old, like I don't know anything, but I remember this moment. She was like, she told me how much she loved me. She was like, I just love you so much. And inside, I was like, well, you would say that to whatever baby you had adopted. Like, no one taught me that. Like, I've just come to claim all this as alcoholism. Like, once I read that blue book, and it was like, hey, we're like this. And I was like, whoa, you're circling. You know that step where you circle everything you relate to? And then you're just like, I guess I'll just circle this whole book. Like, you're just like running out of highlighter. I don't know, I'm really I don't have anything in common with this 1930s stockbroker, but I have everything in common with these feelings. I have everything in common with these, like, and I'm not cool like Kay is, but I relate to her too. I'm like, yes, same. I just couldn't. So the gist of my story is like, I am very happy today. That is also, if this is too long and you need to go, I get it. I might leave early. I'm up this late, but I'm not out. But I'm very happy. I'm very happy and contented. I'm happy in this sweet way. I'm not happy because I won the lottery, 2 hours ago, because I did not. And I do try sometimes. And I do like to feel like led to do it. I just feel good about that. Nothing ever comes of it. My feelings are useless. My feelings are completely useless. Also, not a bad takeaway. And I think also in the book, to be honest. But the day I got sober, the day I was in the room, in the meeting, fully defeated, I felt like heavy and oily. Like I felt like, I didn't even think I literally what, I just felt like, ugh. And I remember looking at people, it was a 9 a.m. meeting, and looking at people who were like dressed. Like dressed, like to go, I guess, to work. I could not fathom how one could have retroactively figured out when to wake up and what you do to prepare to be. I just thought I had to get sober. Things were bad. I will tell you about it, but I was like, I guess I'll just never laugh or have fun again. But I can't not do this. And I laugh way more. And I have way more fun. And there's not imminent danger on the other side of that fun. It's not a fun that I then have to like pay for, sometimes literally or metaphorically, for years. Like, I don't forfeit self-esteem for fun or thousands of dollars or, you put myself in dangerous situations. So essentially, I grew up in Grand Prairie, Texas, and it's as nice as it sounds. It's a picture Burbank with a cowboy hat. That's where I'm from. And really nice parents. I mentioned my mom, you remember her, and I have a brother, and he's pretty normal. We were like straight A students, and my dad was it was a stable house. It was so stable, I hated it for that. I just really have a problem, to be honest. Like, I was just born with I'm just that, I'm sure I just look like a middle-aged valley lady to you, and I very much am. But I have that like rebel without a like inside, like I kind of literally think I'm Fonzie. Like that's an aspect of alcoholism we don't talk about maybe enough. But like how cool we feel, that can't happen to me, it's like, calm down, preschool librarian, anyway, so even as a kid, I was like, I remember in third grade, a teacher was talking, and I was sitting there, I was like, what do you know? You live in Grand Prairie. You have a car. I've seen it. You could go, and you don't. I'm not listening to you. 8. What a charming gal. But I was sort of charming, as we are. I was like a cute little kid and precocious and fun and mad that things weren't more fun. Like, I'm the fun one in my family. Another word I had for alcoholism, frankly, I'm fun. I know how to live. And my family, they're very they're just regular people. Here's an example of my brother, even as an adult. So my brother owns a ranch in Texas. And there was a huge fire. They get fires like we get fires here. There was a huge fire one year, and it had made its way to his ranch, and somebody had to get the cattle off. I didn't grow up this way, but he got weird in his cattle. Anyway, so he and oil wells, can you believe it? Anyway, that's probably a tangent. I might have some step work to do on this. Anyway, so the fire got up on his property, burned a lot of stuff down. It didn't get to the house where people live if they're there, but it did get to the tool shed and basically sort of melted it, which is quite a vision. But I talked to my brother on the phone, and I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. That fire messed up so much stuff at your ranch. Like, I'm just so sorry. And that's horrible. And I'm just trying to connect with him. And this is my brother. He goes, well, I guess that's just what Mother Nature has to do sometimes. I mean, I can get there after a couple of meditation retreats and some sound baths and journal through a few notebooks and 10 steps for 6 or 7 months, I guess. But that's where he goes, well, that's life, ups and downs. And I'm like, no downs. No downs. I don't like that part. Let's edit this. When I saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off, my takeaway was make it every day like that. Why just one day? How about the one day you had to go to school? Anyway, so my parents did drink, and they drank openly and happily and abundantly. I cannot call them alcoholics because there was never talk of them wanting to stop. But I will say they were rule people. You make good grades and you don't mess around. Then Friday came along, and my mom literally was a teacher where I went to school. Friday came around, and 30 teachers piled into our house. And the blender fires up with margaritas. And they were women, but they were, you know what? There were some guys in there. But these people who all week long just told me to sit down and pay attention were bum, 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 dee, 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 doo, woo! And telling jokes and cackling, and they were people, and I was like, I can't wait for this. There was just no question that drinking and eating were the only good parts of adulthood. And I have a kind of unusual story in that although Kay actually said sort of similar, so it's not unusual tonight, I was actively non-drinker in high school. My rebellious period in junior high, we were raised Episcopalian. I grew up in a somewhat similar church to this. And in high school, I visited the Southern Baptist Church with my friend Cindy. And I was like, this church is great. And we can't talk to Jesus all the time like you can. And I really like that. And P.S., I'll tell you, the guys were so cute there. And in retrospect, I can tell you, I was maybe a school 7, but a church 9. So I got real religious. And they had, donuts at Sunday, everything about it was great. And camp and donuts. And boys, you guys, I didn't even just have one addiction. I would say, if I narrowed it down to 3, my top 3 addictions, guys, pies, and booze. That's my deal. I just want to eat it, drink it, or we'll just say kiss it. I am just interested. I just want to Pac-Man through life. That is my interest. And it got bad. So in college, it was a lot of blacking out, which I didn't care. I was like, well, that's funny. Like, it just seemed, I came to driving, which I don't consider funny now, but it just seemed like, oh, isn't this crazy? And I was young, and it felt like adventure. And it felt like, honestly, what I was supposed to be doing. And then I also became a teacher, like my mom. And my drinking was, I wasn't like, what do we call it? Periodic, I guess. You know, I might have a drink with you like a normal person, and it's fine. And then I might have a drink and then just wander around for a few days, meeting new people. And that's how I did it. I wasn't intervened on. People weren't like, you're the biggest drunk I know, you know, but I really started noticing in my late 20s and in my 30s, I stopped moving forward in my life. Like I would hit like a bottom and then be like, you know what, I'm just gonna get it together. And I would like get it together and get a job, like a good situation. I left teaching and came out to LA and did stuff there. But it was like, get the job, get the thing, get in where I wanted to be, like a dream would come true. And then I'd be like, this is great. And then, well, he's cute and I'm thirsty and why not? Like, and I would just like big down and then get back. So I just was in this circle. And my other friends are like buying houses and moving forward and staying with the same person. And I was like, everything was just like how it was. And it came to a head for me. And so my drinking just got progressively worse. And I got married around this time, which probably, I gotta guess, not great for him. I panic married. My mom was diagnosed with cancer and I was 30 and this guy asked and I was like, well, who else is gonna want then? Maybe it'll settle me down and all the terrible, a handful of terrible reasons. And I married, and this was the first person in my life, this guy who I was married to, he was the first person who said, I think you might be an alcoholic. And I said, you just don't know how to drink. And we were both right. He was not good at drinking. One time, they would talk a big game, him and his friends, like they would be like, well, we should get drunk. It's Friday, we should drink. We'll get some drinks and we'll watch movies and hang out. And we went to go get drinks and they got a 6-pack. And I was like, there are 4 of us. Like, what? What is wrong with, to this day, I'm baffled. They were like, yeah, let's do it up. And I was like, you are sadly mistaken. And that was the first time I adjusted my drinking for the surroundings in that way, where I was like, I just can't drink with these people. They are losers. And again, I was not completely wrong about that. Anyway, but he's not here. So when I was 36, I actually came in through a different program into here. I came in, some say through the kitchen door, and you hear me. Oh, I like that laugh. That's a good one. My new favorite, everybody catch up with David, right? David? Yeah, yeah, we're friends. So what happened for me was I could identify that I had an eating problem. Maybe I eat too much. It's not a bad quality to have when you first come to AA. I will say that, because these meetings are catered. And I think sometimes I stayed sober a year just to get the cake. Anyway, I joined this group and I did a version of a 12-step food thing where they say don't drink alcohol. It's empty calories. And I was like, not the way I do it. But it was the first time in my adult life, like I didn't drink for a period of time. And I remember going, wow, I mean, I'm functioning better without the way I was eating, but I confided in a friend like it was like top secret, like, I think not drinking is probably good for me too. Like I couldn't even believe I was saying it. So in that program, I got what I would call, what we call the sunlight of the spirit. Like I cleaned up a little and looked better, and I wasn't drinking. I did not understand what the steps were or what to do with them, but I did get like this aversion of sort of happiness, or, I was free from active addiction in a sense for a little bit. And then I met someone. There was this cute guy, and I was divorced at this time. If you can believe that marriage didn't last, but what a world. But he was cute, and he was like, I think when I met him, he was actively drunk, went outside to get high. He was drinking, smoking, getting high, and I was like learning meditation that weekend, and I was like, I'm like this new person. I don't drink. I don't even eat certain things. Like, I'm like clean living. I'm about to learn, P.S., to meditate. I don't need him in my life. And I don't need a guy like that. No, thank you. And then he was like, well, we could just hang out as friends. And I was like, that sounds so normal. Let's do that. I mean, in a nanosecond, it was like drink, French fries, this guy, it was just like, buy everything I thought I needed. And I just like followed him out of program. Like, I just was like, and this was my thinking. Tell me if you recognize it. I was like, because he was like a stoner. And I was like, you know what? First of all, I never did that in high school. I was a straight A student. And doesn't everyone deserve to just sit around and get high like a teenage boy for like some period of time? They got to do it. I don't get that. And then I was also like, and what is meditation anyway? How is it even different? You're just like chilling out, right? Addiction is amazing because our brains are chef's kiss. My favorite line in the book is that we have a peculiar mental twist. Boy, I'll say, a peculiar mental twist. I was like, well, that's being kind. I mean, I guess step 2 is a little rude. Restore you to sanity. That is a bit of a gut punch, that one. But like, we have a peculiar twist, and it's like a peculiar twist where you're like, well, he's not that married. Like that's a peculiar mental twist. Like, I literally, when I was married, I went to a party and I hit it off with a guy, and then the guy was like, can I see you again? Can I get your number? And I was like, no. I mean, we were just talking. I'm not trying to be graphic. Anyway, but he wanted to see me again, and then I go, I'm kind of seeing someone. I was married. But like, I didn't want to like close the door, like, I don't see it lasting long. So yeah, here's my number. Let's definitely keep in touch. And there was another party I did hook up with someone. I left the party with a guy. I was at a party, met a guy, wanted to be with him, and I left with him. The party was at my house. Peculiar mental lock up or don't, I don't care. I met Paul, and I just, hello. So bottom for me was I went to visit a friend of mine, and I did have a feeling I was approaching my bottom. Like what had happened the year before I got sober, I had been like a version of sober in this other program that involved not drinking. I would put time together, and every time I slipped in that program, it was with alcohol. So I was on some level getting a message that I might have this thing, but I did not want to have this thing. And I feel like that's part of the peculiar mental twist. That thinking that's like, but if I go to AA, then I have that, like you'll catch it. As opposed to like, no, I have it and I need to go and treat it. It's more like, if I'm around it too long, maybe I'll really get it. And I didn't care for that. And so I had this nice version of life and wandered away from it. And a year later, I found myself visiting a friend in Oklahoma City. And, you can't choreograph where you have your bottom. But if you can have it in Oklahoma City, I recommend. It's a great place to hit bottom. And it's just very scenic for that. And my friend was DJing. He was gonna DJ at some bar, and it was like Bowie versus Queen, and was his DJ set. And I just remember this it was like a Thursday night at just some bar in Oklahoma, and you would have thought I was prepping for like an Oscar party. Like, not in a gown, but just like, yeah, we're like, I did everything one can do. That like people are day drinking and I'm day drinking. People are smoking. I didn't even smoke, but I was like, yeah, my fear of missing out is deep. And then whiskey, and we're drinking that, and somebody had cocaine, and keep in mind, on this trip, I was trying to be good, and so literally somebody was like, hey, do you want to do some coke? And I was like, no, thank you. And then they said, you sure? Well, all right. I did all I can do. I mean, they wore me down. What else could I have? You understand? Yeah, okay, yeah. At the place, there was an ice sculpture booze luge that literally, like a commercial or a movie, like they're pouring this and this, and you're down there at the getting it. And I'm pretty sure I put my mouth right on it, which is possibly the worst thing I ever did drinking. But I don't think you put your mouth right on it, but I did. And was literally, honestly, made out with some guy. He wandered off, and I just made out with another. Like, I was just all on fire. And terrible part of it is I had put signals out to someone I didn't really know that well. And then when we all ended up at home, me and my friend at his place, this guy showed up and was like, let's continue what I perceived to be a date, and my friend wasn't actually there, and so I'm spending time with this person, and then I realized I no longer want to be spending time with this person, and I ended up locking myself in a room and calling my friend, and I put myself in an extremely dangerous situation, and I did that a lot. And my friend did come. It was not a worst case scenario, but it's indicative of how I function when I drink. I do not care. I'm sober right this second, and I care. I care about you. I care about my fiance and my friends and my dog. I care. And when I drink, what's to even care about? I feel kind of good, and I just want more of that. And that is all I care about. And so for me, it culminated in this one night, and it was the next day, and I'm driving back to see my family in Dallas before I fly back to LA, and I had that moment in the car because the program I had been in had said, it doesn't stop. If we could stop, we would have stopped. We don't stop without help. And it just hit me on the car like, oh, that's what they were talking about. I'm not gonna stop. Like I had still thought, I'll grow out of it. Or, I'll get that job, this thing, the right person, something will happen and I will not want to drink anymore, or, even out or whatever. And that's what hit me was like, oh, I'm not going to stop on my own. I'm 37, I'll be 67, I'll be 87, I'll be any age I survive till. I will be doing this on my own. So when I came back to LA, I got help. And I came to AA meetings, and it was horrifying. It was horrifying. It's not, I love it now. And it's fun to love it now. So there's no loving it day one, because it's like, how did I get here? Like the worst, we were never children going, one day I hope this was not anyone's bucket list, like to do this. And it was a lot to wrap my head around. But I realized I really had it. I ended up calling a friend. I asked someone to sponsor me. There was a woman, I love the description of Louise. There was a woman who always had a default. I'm probably doing it in a weird way, but she looked nice. She just always had a little smile. Like she looked like Serenity. Like if the Serenity Prayer was a person, this is what she looked like. And I was nervous, and I asked her to sponsor me, and she said, no, but she'll sponsor you. And it was like, I had gone to several of these meetings, and she pulled someone out of thin air that I had never laid eyes on. And this person's like, yeah, okay. And we talked, and she was call me every day for a week. And even that, I was like, every day for a week. Okay, I'll do it. Like even that was my Mount Everest at the time, was like, call once a day for a week. Okay, I hope I can do it. But I did. She's my sponsor today. She was amazing. And it was the first consistent, like Kay was saying, learning how to be on time, learning how to call because I said I would call, learning to tell the truth. And what was stunning, she was 7 years sober, which was beyond my comprehension. I mean, honestly, if we can just take a moment to not be drinking on a Friday night, this is nuts. I did not know how. I mean, I literally was like, what do we do? And, when people are sober for what, you can kind of forget. It's like, you can hang out with friends or go to dinner or what, but like early, it was like, hang out with friends, like dinner. Interesting. I had a friend who just didn't drink. He just didn't like it, which I cannot fathom. And I followed him around. Like we were in the same group that did stuff on weekends. And I was just like, I guess I'll do it. So I'm like riding bikes and going to movies and a lot of frozen yogurt, to be honest. It is a default for this. So my sponsor taught me how to bring myself into program. Like she took me through the steps, and even fascinating to go through like doctor's opinion. Do you relate to any of this? And it was like, it's weird language. It's hard to sort through, but I was like, yeah, like I see myself in these feelings and wanting to stop, and I can't. Like, even when I was like, I moved at some point, I was like, say 10 years sober or something. And I moved, and I've kept journals since I was little. And a journal fell out of a box. And I picked it up, and just where I happened to open to in this journal was from college, where I had been writing about a very bad situation I'd gotten myself in, which was pretty common, and saying, I think I might drink too much. I think I might be an alcoholic. It said in there. And I shared at that meeting, I was like, can you believe that's what fell out of like this notebook that said, I think I'm an alcoholic. Like that's the one that fell out. And it took me maybe 2 years in sobriety to realize that was not just in that one notebook. Any notebook. It was not a magic notebook sending me a message. It was all the notebooks. And what I found here is a level of community that I had never looked for. I didn't know that was my answer. All I really wanted I didn't come here for peace. It never occurred to me to even want peace. All I really want on some level is just a fire hose of money and compliments. Like that's all if you have anything else for me, not interested. I'm too busy with my money and my compliments. Doesn't have to be a fire hose, could be a bucket, whatever. That's all I want. And that is what I'm gonna get sober and I'll get it together and then I can really, make a killing in the stock market or whatever it is. And what I found, I do all right. But what I found was a group of people that, like even with my sponsor, 7 years sober, and she was very graceful. It was hard to believe she had ever been anything like me. But when I did my 5th step with her, and I opened all my veins and said, this is all my gross, she was like, oh, me too. Oh, I did that. Oh, I followed a guy to Vietnam one year. When they one-up you, is that the best? When they're like, oh, I did that 35 times. It's incredible. And I couldn't believe it. And all I really wanted, I guess, I didn't have a concept of happiness. I just had a concept of stuff that might make me feel good. And I called it happiness. So before I came up here, I was almost in tears just sitting here. They didn't know. But my friend, my fiance, and he's talking to my friend Kay, and they're just talking about their work and sharing stuff. And I started tearing up because a year ago, he went in to get maybe a stent. He had some heart issues. It's a very long story, but he went in to get a stent, and they came out of the angiogram thing in 20 minutes, and I was like, oh, did you not find anything again? And they go, no, we found quite a bit more blockage than we thought, and he needs a triple bypass. Now we're prepping him for surgery. And it was like our lives exploded. We have a great life when we first started dating, so we've been together about 8 years. So I was about 10 years sober. And when we first started dating, he would compliment me. And it was the funniest compliments because he would say, gosh, you're just so kind and compassionate, and you're just this really good listener, and you have integrity. And I was like, hilarious. Because he wasn't talking to me, he was talking to you. The AA gave me those things. But ask the guy I was married to, he would not say those things. He would say very different things. He saw what you gave me, what I get here, because I was willing to call this stranger every day for a week and answer questions and do fearless. And we do a lot of worksheets, to be honest, in this program. It's like 2nd grade math. It is worksheet after worksheet in here. I'm fearless and 10 steps and working out resentments and seeing my part. And I never had a relationship really with my dad. My mom, I told you she had been diagnosed. She passed away about 20 years ago. And then it was kind of me and my dad and my brother, and we were friendly, and we weren't estranged, but I had nothing in common with these hunter rancher guys. And I took that to AA. My first Christmas was coming up on my first Christmas sober, and my sponsor taught me to do that. When something's going on, you raise your hand, you share it with the room, and I didn't really know why. And now it's to be seen, and also you might get what you need. You might get what you need, and you don't even know what you need. Again, I just think I need money and compliments, but I don't know what I need. So I raised my hand and I said, I'm going home for Christmas and I'm going to spend a week with my dad. And I don't want to drink, but it is the only thing we have in common. I have nothing to talk to this man about. But I also know I should go home. I only see him rarely, and I lost my mom, and there will only be so many more Christmases with my dad. But how do I do it? I asked AA. And this guy, after the meeting, kind of waved me over, and he's kind of like he's like that lovable, funny guy. He was always putting on softball tournaments and stuff, and he looked at me and he said, just love your dad. He was, just love your dad. And I was like, I'm afraid to tell him I'm sober. He'll hear it as like an accusation. And he goes, you don't have to tell him anything. That's your business. Just love your dad. And I took that as seriously as I took call me every day for a week. Like I was like, just love your dad, just love your dad. Oh, okay, just love your dad. And I went home, my dad's a grumpy bear. He loved the movie Grumpy Old Men and fully identified. That was I think he saw that movie and was like, goals. So just a grumpy, harumphy dude. And I would and I can people please, and I can get, and I would do something, I want to impress you, and so then you like me, and I would get like that. I would be sitting next to him and getting like crazy, like maybe I should make a lasagna. Like it wasn't even really a go-to in our house, but I was like, maybe that'll impress him. I don't know, does he want to go see there's a Clint Eastwood movie. He had not been in the movie for 30 years, and I was like, and I would just go, just love him. And I would really just think in my mind, I love you, Dad, I love you, Dad, I love you, Dad. And I calmed down. And it did not take place in one trip or 2 trips, but I started calling him, and then one day he started calling me. And then we started talking. And in 2019, I was going home to visit, and by the end of the week, he couldn't stand. And then I helped get him into hospice. And unlike any other time in my life, I was the one who called my brother. He's the responsible one. And I said, I think this is really bad, and you need to come back home. He was traveling. And I was holding my dad's hand my brother was holding his other hand when my dad took his last breath. And I didn't have any resentments. I had said what I needed to say. And a few days before that, I had even looked at him and I just said, I'm going to miss you. And he said, I'm going to miss you too. And we both meant it. And AA gave me that. I mean, it's profound. So I'm so happy just to have when someone tells me they love me, I hear it. And I love them. And I feel it. And I did not have that capacity for whatever reason. So the level of growth and change and healing and ultimately happiness is fantastic. So thank you. Thanks for letting me share about it. Thanks for everything you do.